Wrestling fans around the corner and around the world. I'm Dan Marty.
I'm Kevin Sullivan.
Unbelievable. I am so happy to have this man with us, fans. It's Wednesday night. AEW Dynamite has come to a close. It's time for Wrestling Insiders Special Edition. Tickets are on sale now for our 20th anniversary Back to the 80s and 90s WrestleFest Birthday Bash, Saturday, November the 13th at Memorial Hall in Melrose, Massachusetts.
This is Mick Foley.
This is Harley Race.
This is Shelton Benjamin.
This is Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff.
This is the Monster Abyss.
And this is Daniel Bryan.
This is JBL, and you're watching the MWF.
Be there live.
All right, wrestling fans, welcome to another Wrestling Insiders as I try and find my voice. We are here in Sin City, Las Vegas, Nevada. I was told by D'Lo Brown the reason early in the day my voice is so raspy, almost like I'm dying of a cold, is because sand gets in your throat out here. Not being a desert guy, I would have never known that.
I would have never known it either, but it makes sense. It makes sense.
I'm very happy to have you here with us on this show finally after many years of you and I going back and forth, all the way back in some ways to 1994 with Tony Rumble. We're going to save that for the second time you are with us. Because one thing we are big on here on this show, if nothing else, is trying to remember the brotherhood, the fallen brothers when we lose them. And it just seems like there's been a bunch of them lately, and a lot of them have had extensive time, whether it be WCW, Georgia, or NWA, Florida, that you may have been around. So we wanted to pick your brain a little bit for some memories, some stories. Maybe some good, maybe even a little bad, who knows? But you never know until you ask the questions.
Right.
The big one has to be a man that I have eons and eons and eons of respect for, someone that I would truly consider to be a man's man, that I enjoyed having in studio with us so much. He was going to be part of our Back to the 80s event until he really took ill. Now, I guess we would have to address him as the late, great Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff.
Paul was a very dear friend of mine. He was a great football player. Probably he was called the Brandon Bull. Mm-hmm. And he played on the last team that the University of Tampa had, because the Bucks, when they came into town, mm-hmm. they paid the college an enormous amount of money to drop the football program.
Never knew that.
Yeah, and Paul was the premier running back in their history. Went to the Saints and was going to have a great career, but he really ripped up his knee, and then he turned it into wrestling. And back in those days, when you went into Tampa and you wrestled at the Sportatorium, if you wanted to try out, there was, in no particular order, but there was Jerry Briscoe, Jack Briscoe, Mike Graham, Hiro Matsuda, Bob Roop. I saw a lot of guys get hurt real bad. And the first day, after doing 500 push-ups and 500 squats, they couldn't get Paul to break. They did get him in some holes, that were only a few people in the world knew them. Like Hero was trained by Kyle Gotch.
Right, yeah.
So he knew.
Paul wouldn't have been well versed in that.
And hooking your mouth and stuff like that. But he was one of those guys. He was a bow hunter and a fisherman, a great diver, free diver in tanks. Well, we went diving a few times together. He was just, like you said, a man's man, and he went way too early.
Mm. I don't know if you saw that video of him at the some kind of an assisted facility not too long before he passed, and he was eating the packets. I don't know if it was salt or pepper or
yeah.
That was just really sad to see, but it seemed like he was almost making a rebound. The Sun had put another video of him online You know, he was groomed, his hair was cut, that long mustache was gone. I think he was drinking a beer right around July 4th, if I remember right. So it almost seemed like that, geez, maybe things were, even if they weren't on the upswing, it was at least contained, and he was going to have some kind of quality of life.
Well,
and then he passed not too long after that.
it's funny you said that. It seems to be after when Paul got it, I saw the same first one where he was unkept, and then the second one he looked terrific. But I have been talking to someone whose father's going through that now, and some days he's lucid as anything can be, and then she said to me, some days if they're on a plane, he'll ask her 20, 30 times, where are we going and why are we going? You know?
Wow.
So it seems to me that you can get your hopes up on the day they're really lucid, and the day they're not. It's going to be hard to keep that middle ground to understand what's going on.
You're probably just hoping beyond hope that it stays that way.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
If it's something that I've never really experienced it much in my life, but you know, I would think, I would hope that on a good day it's like, oh, okay, maybe they're turning the corner, and now, almost like they're getting over the flu, they're finally getting better now. But with that type of a disease, unfortunately, where there's still so little known about it, you know, it is what it is. And it was just a shame to see Paul in that shape. I would have preferred not to have seen the video, but you know what? Maybe the son put it out as kind of an awakening to people to say, you know what, this is the reality of the situation, that not just what my dad is going through, but what people go through in general when they face this.
Yeah, I don't believe that you can know what somebody's thinking and say, well, and I heard a lot of comments, oh, that was a horrible thing to do. But if only one person catches that they go and get checked up and maybe can get on some medicine and different things early, maybe it will extend their quality of life.
So yeah, like you said, even if it's one person whose quality of life was extended or can be extended in the future, maybe it was not for nothing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And he had a difficult final few years. I know the cauliflower helped him a couple of times as his health began to, deteriorate a little bit. And, even the conversations I had with him and trying to get him back up to Boston again, there were times where it's like you and I are chatting right now, and then there were other times when it was, you could tell. It almost reminded me of Larry the X Hennig. We did the last appearance with him, and he had started to slip to the point where he needed his wife to come along with him. But, there were times on the phone, we'd do a nice promo interview to hype it up, and it'd be a heck of a lot of fun. And then I'll never forget when they wheeled him off the plane in New Orleans for that WrestleMania week. It was, I don't think he knew where he was. Wife, though, sharp as a whip, and one of the nicest ladies I can remember coming across in wrestling. I don't know if you ever met Irene Hennig, but great lady. I always said if they were to cast a Mrs. Claus in a movie, she'd be perfect for it. So I hope they're doing well up there in Minnesota. They've had a lot of loss in that family with Kurt passing so young too. But did you ever get a chance to work, Paul? I mean, I would imagine you would have had to at some point when you guys were younger rascals.
Yeah, and I got to work with him when him and Roma were together.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Me and Mick worked with them, and me and Evad worked with them. And
Lord, Evad.
They were, Paul, he was, I always say if you're a young man and you're watching videotapes and you want to have a presence of a heel, watch Paul Orndorff, because he had a fifth gear that I've never seen. He would go first gear, second gear, third, fourth, and then he would kick it into a fifth gear. And it was so intense, and everything he did was solid, and he was so intense. And what you saw in the ring was what Paul was. He was an intense individual. And when I was with him one time, and this was in WCW, and we were supposed to go to Long Island, and Paul was driving, and we got caught in New York City during rush hour, and Paul, we were in a rental car, and Paul was so uptight, and you knew Paul when he get uptight. He actually flipped out and was so mad. He pulled the steering wheel off the column. We're sitting there with a rental car with no steering wheel. We just, jammed it in park and then called the rental car. And, when they came down, how did that happen? It's impossible. I said, not with this guy, it's not impossible. But,
Oh my! Well, he had told me that he suffered from bipolarism. So I remember the first time we had him, it was fantastic. Second time we had him wasn't too much longer after that, and he pulled me aside and he goes, "I need one thing. I need my sleep. Don't fuck with my sleep. For you, I'll do it one time. I don't care if you pay me less. I need to leave later. I need my sleep." So I said, "Paul," I said, "if I knew you needed your sleep that bad, I would have made sure to get you the later flight."
Yeah.
And then we went on to have a great afternoon after that. But, he like you just said, he could have his moments of intensity.
Yeah.
Do you think that made him a better trainer, down there at WCW with the power plant? Do you think nowadays where, not to knock any wrestling schools, but they can be kind of soft, where they'll let just about anybody in like it's Little League Baseball?
In today's world, everybody's so sensitive. I don't think that Paul would be able to hold a job because he demanded excellence.
Mhm.
And he wasn't one that's going to do crazy things to the students, but if you didn't go to the gym, if you didn't wrestle hard, there wasn't going to be a place with him. And today's day and age, they just, one of the companies, and they just hire 38 guys with no wrestling experience whatsoever.
Yeah. And can you imagine Paul Orndorff having them cleaning the toilet with toothbrushes?
Yeah. Yeah.
You needed to have a real passion to want to be in this business to go through those types of things. And you get it, I get it, but this whole new crop of independent wrestlers and such, it's different for them, where they don't know the history and what it was like to pay the true dues. Never mind the dues in the industry, just to be able to break into it. Like you were talking about Hiro Matsuda, look at what they did to Hogan. They broke his leg before he, showed them that he really wanted it. He came back after his leg healed and continued to train with them. Could you imagine those independent schools nowadays? Like I said, marshmallow places where, you have $100, okay. It's like Little League Baseball. You can sign up, and whether you're good or bad, you get to play 3 innings a game. And I think that's been the deterioration of it between you and I and everyone else listening.
Yeah, and I saw some old tapes that they had in Tampa, their archives.
Mm-hmm.
And when Mike was 16 years old,
You mean Mike Graham?
yeah,
Okay.
he was taking on people that wanted to be wrestlers, like 22, 23-year-old men. And they'd say, wrestle him. If you can beat him, you might get a chance. and here's Mike back then. I think Mike wrestled in the 154-pound class, and these guys are 220, 230.
They probably thought slim pickings,
Yeah.
easy pickings.
And there was one where he was cross-facing this one guy, and I mean, every time he cross-faced him, blood was squirting out of his nose, his eye, and now it's like you said, some of these schools, they just want to take your money and,
Mm-hmm.
you know, if you come, as long as you pay, if you come once a month, that's good for them when you want to pay up your monthly dues. But it's I can't say whether the wrestling is that people say that wrestling is better today or yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
It's completely different eras.
Sure, absolutely.
You know, completely different eras, and you can't put it in. Say, well, there are some guys in every sport that could play at any era. I think Will Chamberlain could play in any era. I think Bill Russell could have played basketball in any era. Now, Ted Williams is the last guy to hit 400,
Yeah.
right? 1941. But he wasn't, and he's my favorite player of all time.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Not saying he is the best, but he was, you know, the art of hitting and all that. But he wasn't facing the setup guy. He wasn't
Right.
facing the closer that's throwing at 100 miles an hour or better.
He was facing guys that were usually going 9.
Yeah, or the guy that got beat the night before and he came into relief.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah.
So could Ted have played it in today's day? Absolutely. But I don't think he would hit 400s.
No, I don't think we're ever going to see that again
No,
this day and
no.
age. Not with all the specialists.
We're not going to see 400. We're not going to see a 300 game winner.
No. A 300 game winner in baseball?
No.
My gosh, how many more times do you think we'll see a 200 game winner?
Not me.
That's a different story for a different time as we talk a little baseball. Kevin and I are both diehard Red Sox fans, as you can probably tell
Yeah.
by his shirt from one of the great moments in years in Boston Red Sox baseball. And I have on the most evil-looking Santa Claus shirt I could find for the Paul Bearer Holiday Headlocks Toy Drive efforts with Kevin, where I know he has been such a devil of a guy over the years. Right now, we're going to take a brief time out. When we come back, we're going to talk about a little bit more about Paul Orndorff and some of our great fallen friends. Please stand by. We'll be right back. Wrestling fans around the corner, around the world, I'm Dan Marty.
And I'm John Cena Sr.
Johnny, the momentum here in Boston wrestling continues as we continue to build and build and build. The fans want to know, how do we help? We subscribe to the Patreon, but we see all the great merchandise on that set. Coronavirus may have killed the nightlife, especially for someone like Marty, but our acclaimed eBay store is open 24/7 around the world.
Wow. Check it out.
Support Wrestling Insider's in-studio shoot interviews on eBay with this brand new personally autographed WWE Royal Rumble 2021 11x14 poster signed by WWE Universal Champion Roman Reigns, his advocate Paul Heyman, and Kevin Owens. Reigns and Owens battled for the Universal title in a last standing match January 31st in the Thunderdome in Tampa. This limited edition collector's poster is number 31 of only 50 produced. Comes with WWE authentication hologram on the poster itself. Also comes with an on-air shout-out from WWE Hall of Famer Mr. USA Tony Atlas and a bonus autographed 8x10 photo. Get this rare, awesome collectible for your man cave and help keep wrestling legends working now. Tickets are on sale now for our 20th anniversary Back to the 80s and 90s WrestleFest Birthday Bash, Saturday, November the 13th at Memorial Hall in Melrose, Massachusetts. The World Wrestling Federation was sold out at the world's most famous arena, Madison Square Garden in New York City, Monday, September 21st, 1987. In the opening contest, Scott Casey beat Steve Lombardi. The magnificent Don Morocco victorious over Cowboy Bob Orton. The Islanders defeated Strikeforce. Tiger Chung Lee with the win over Brad Ringens. In the main event, WWF World Champion Hulk Hogan battled one-man gang to a double countout. The Rougeau brothers drew the new Dream Team. George the Animal Steel beat Sika via disqualification. King Harley Race victorious over Hillbilly Jim, and Macho Man Randy Savage, replacing Jake Roberts, defeated WWF Intercontinental Champion the Honky Tonk Man in a non-title match. If you're in New York City live, share your memories in the comment section below. Use the links in the description box to keep Wrestling Legends working on our eBay store and on our world-renowned Patreon streaming service so we can bring you more interactive superstar shoot interviews to relive the good old days of professional wrestling. Check it out. Boston wrestling sports in the MWF explodes into a new year with professional wrestling content galore and need you to join our family. Every Tuesday night at 10 p.m. after our Monday Night Raw review, it's Wrestling Insiders at your house with WWE Hall of Famer Mr. USA Tony Atlas. Wednesday nights at 10 p.m. after NXT and AEW, join rotating legends on Wrestling Insiders Special Edition. Every Thursday night at 10 p.m. after our NXT and Dynamite review, it's Marty Jannetty's no-holds-barred sex, drugs, and rock and roll journey on Wrestling Insiders Party with Marty. Friday night after SmackDown, don't miss John Cena Sr.'s Wrestling Insiders Fabulous Fridays. Plus, look for classic clips, history videos, bonus live episodes, pay-per-view, watch-alongs, and more. For less than a cup of coffee at Starbucks, get early ad-free access to our Wrestling Insider talk shows, our acclaimed studio shoot interview DVD library, and help keep wrestling legends working during the worst of times. Join our growing family at patreon.com.
Cheer! Why, hello! I would ask what was on your mind, but I already know. You want to know what has got my beard looking oh so majestic. And I'll tell you, it's sexy as hell beard care. Coconut oil, vitamin E oil, almond oil, both sweet and bitter, shea butter, it's all natural. Yes, JTG has actually come out with a high quality product, so support your boy by going to sahbeardcare.com and take one step closer to becoming sexy as hell. Cheer. Ooh, cheer. You know?
Wrestling fans, welcome back to Wrestling Insiders. Dan Marty along with Kevin Sullivan. So happy to have Kevin with us for the very first time. Hopefully the first of many, many visits we'll be having as time goes on. Hopefully you're going to be in and out of Boston a lot to see many Red Sox playoff series.
Yeah.
Even though you're kind of on the left coast now, about as far away from Boston as you can get.
Yes, I am. I mean, I'm on the islands. I'm closer to Vancouver than I am Seattle.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. By boat, I'm only not ferry, by fishing boat, I'm only about 20 minutes from Victoria.
Wow.
Yeah.
How often do you get to see the Mariners? I think we spoke about that once. But
I used to go, like, they're playing this weekend, the Red Sox.
Oh, they're at Safeco?
Yeah, and I go usually 2 to 4 games. You know, they usually have a 3-game series, 1 year and a 4-game series the following year. So I usually go, and I go with, you remember this name, Scott Dickerson.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
He lives out in Washington?
Yeah, he lives in Seattle. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Well, for those that may not know, that was not only a famed WCW referee during the Nitro era, but I came into his orbit. I think I met him before Tony, as a matter of fact. I think he came down, maybe scope out what we were doing at the TV studio before Tony came down to promote his first live event in October 1993.
Wow.
So I think I met Scott for the first time, if my memory is correct, in June of 93. And I would have met Tony for the first time in September of 93. So isn't that funny that you guys go together? That's actually kind of cool. But I want to get back, not to for those baseball fans, we could probably go on for quite a bit, but for the wrestling fans that usually tune into this show, Paul Orndorff What kind of duties did he have after his in-ring time came to an end? I think he was kind of double dipping for a little while. He was doing a little behind-the-scenes work, and then he was tagging with Romer, and he was working at the training center, and I know he went on to have that hellacious encounter with Leon.
I was there.
Tell us about that one, because I know both of those guys so well.
Let me tell you, anybody that says, I've heard people say I was there. There's only a handful.
Was the Sheik there?
The Iron Sheik?
Yeah.
No.
And Paul never disputed it, but we did a WrestleMania 1 roundtable interview with Sheik, Paul, and Bob Orton, myself, and John Cena Sr. You remember the Jackal who used to throw the 2-liter bottle of Cokes at in Tony Rumble shows?
Yeah.
Well, the 6 of us sat around and talked mid-80s WWF and WrestleMania 1, and for some reason, the Sheik claimed he was there and witnessed us.
Now, he probably was in the dressing room and then came out at the end of the skirmish.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay? But I was there physically from here, this close. Paul he had flip-flops, and I heard Tony Schiavone say he didn't have flip-flops on. He had flip-flops, and then I heard Leon say, how would a guy be an agent wearing flip-flops? This was the 90s, and we were loose, right?
And Paul was still working, though, in August of 95.
Yeah.
So
the television people are union, and they got to have their break. I said, I got to get this interview, and I knew the production people. They said, Kev, you got to get them out of here. It's out of union rule. We'll hang on for as long as we can. So I said, Paul, will you please go get Leon? He comes back and says, Leon says he'll be out here when he's ready. I said, Paul, will you please go get him? I can't wait any longer. The guy looked at me and said, I can't. I said, give me 5. He said, I'll give you 5. So Paul leaves, and we're at center stage. And have you ever been in the hallways where there's stairs? The seating in center stage was stairs.
Right, yeah.
And the hallway was at an angle, you know what I mean? Because there's stairs. And there were these boxes to, like, the cameras, these big black boxes where they put the camera and lighting and that kind of stuff. So I'm walking down there and I hear them screaming. And as I get up to Paul, I said, Paul, tell him, Leon, you need to go. And Paul looked away and he bear pawed him. That big mitt of his. And Paul almost went out. And
so Leon took the first swing?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
And because Paul went like this and turned that way, he smacked him, and Paul almost went down, knocked out. He would have took a standing 8 count if it was a fight, right? And as Paul started to drop, Leon front face locked him and shoved him in that box and was crunching him up. And a lot of guys pulled him back, right? And I knew Paul very, very well, and I knew he couldn't take that psychologically. And I sided with the guy that I knew, and Mark Starr was there, God bless him, he was a Florida boy. We kind of, Florida boys stuck together. I said, Paul, go get him. And I sent him, and Leon came at him, and Paul had that fiddler crab arm, you know what fiddler crab is? The one with the blue arm and the big arm. He hit him with a left punch on the jaw. It looked like a work. Leon dropped to his knees. Paul had flip-flops on. Thank God it wasn't cowboy boots. He kicked him square in the jaw. It looked like a kung fu movie. And Leon's head actually touched his back of his boots.
He flew back there.
That far. He was out. And then he stopped him, and everybody's pulling him apart. And I gotta give Leon credit. We get them all in the room, and Leon busts in the room, and he sliced underneath the eye. And I mean, his head is swelling up already. And he said, let's go, let's keep going. And then Haku jumped in the middle and said, that's enough. They said,
both know,
we better not go any further, so they backed down. And but I saw it, and I think David Penza also witnessed it at the vantage point of Paul getting the offense. I don't think he saw the Leon slap him, but
Leon could be awfully moody. I mean, you know, he could be a really nice guy, a sensitive guy that I don't think a lot of people realized at the times he could be. But when he would get in one of those moods, he was a bit much.
I think now that we know a little bit more about mental health, I think he might have been a little bipolar.
Leon?
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
And I also think...
Now, Paul Bearer, just to be fair, he thought it was because of his background in the NFL and being pampered over in Japan that he was just high maintenance.
Yeah, that could be it too. And it was the 90s, and it was, you know, excess. And it might have been that too, a lot of things in it. But one of the things that a lot of people, when I say a lot of people, yeah, I think a lot of people don't know this. You know, he was world champion at the same time. He was world champion in Mexico.
Yeah.
He was world champion in WCW. He was world champion in Germany.
Mm-hmm.
He was world champion in Mexico.
Wasn't he a champion in Japan?
Japan and South Africa.
Wow.
So I think he had 5 or 6 belts, right?
Yeah.
At the same time, so of course he was pampered. And I personally liked Leon, but, you know, I personally think that fight killed his reputation in the business. Just like I think Dynamite Kid, I never met him.
Oh, yeah, I think,
I never met him. I admired his work, but I heard stories about how tough he was, and then the Rougeaus with the rolled up quarters.
Yeah.
He never recovered from that, I don't think, mentally. And I don't think Leon ever recovered from the Paul whipping. And they both seemed to, as they went down, got health problems, and they kind of faded out of the business really quick. Basically, from being on top one night to, you know.
Dynamite, I don't think ever, I could be wrong, the historians, after they finished him up in Survivor Series that year, I don't think Dynamite ever wrestled in the U.S. again. I think he wrestled in Canada and Japan, and then went back to England, and he lost his legs, and which is kind of a really sad story.
Yeah.
And Leon, his run in WWF certainly wasn't awe-inspiring compared to what he had done in WCW and other parts of the world. So I think that you might be right.
Yeah.
Was that fight, is that what did Leon in WCW? Was that why they got rid of him?
Yeah.
Because he was advertised for Fall Brawl War Games the next month in the main event, and then Luger took his spot.
And here's what happened, and I'm surmising this. Paul was an employee, okay? Not a wrestler, he was an employee. And if you put your hands on an employee, now human resources gets involved.
You're not talking two wrestlers, two
Yeah.
independent
No,
contractors. Yeah.
You're talking about employee
Right.
and independent contractor. And I think that actually that Paul didn't want Leon to go because he knew that he was a draw.
Really? Oh,
Yeah,
good,
yeah.
good football.
Yeah. And I think Eric also knew that Leon was still a draw. In fact, we did Baywatch
Right?
after
yeah.
the fight, right?
Oh, that was after the fight?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Right after the fight.
Okay.
And then he came back and his contract was terminated. So I think that was even over Eric's pay grade. That was
Really? They went that high up?
yeah, human resources. I mean,
I mean, that's corporate America for you, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you just can't walk into, where I work for the Comcast or the TV studio and just start slapping people or,
Right.
and what Paul did, it was just retaliation,
Right.
I mean, if someone's going to attack you, I think you have every right to retaliate.
Right.
And maybe not throw the first blow, but that's a different story for a different time. But it's funny, and I'll ask you this, I don't want to get off topic too much, but with Leon, he, as I get my cue from Captain Lou over there, when D'Lo was here yesterday, it came up once again, and it comes up so much. Leon was just such a dangerous, badass man. And now that he's passed away, unfortunately, we had Leon in studio, and, as much as I liked him, I found him as someone that he would complain about just about anything on God's green earth that he could complain about.
Yeah.
If it was 70 degrees, he'd complain. If it was 60, if it was 50, 80, 90, 40, I don't know, that was just his nature. But he has now gained almost this cult phenomenon online, where instead of being Leon White, he's known as Leon Wright for his gear having a scent in and of itself.
Right.
Would you consider that, when now it's become something that's been discussed on so many of these shows, would you say that maybe Leon's gear needed a little bit more cleaning?
Oh yeah, I mean, it was, hey, there were a few guys, but not many, that didn't take care of their gear. But when Leon opened his bag, it was like, whoa. It was like an elephant came in and fired in the room. It was, whoa. Wallpaper would peel.
Oh, man, sometimes you never know what to expect on these shows. As we pay tribute to our friend Paul Orndorff, Leon White's gear, peel the wallpaper off of the room. Oh, man, I tell you, fans. With that, we're running out of time in this segment. We'll be back after this brief timeout to talk more about our fallen heroes and friends. Stand by.
Tickets are on sale now for our 20th anniversary Back to the 80s and 90s WrestleFest Birthday Bash, Saturday, November the 13th at Memorial Hall in Melrose, Massachusetts.
Wrestling fans around the corner, around the world, I'm Dan Marty.
And I'm Mr. USA WWE Hall of Famer Tony Atlas.
The road to WrestleMania has begun. Wrestling fans are looking to add to their man caves. You got to see what we have in the eBay store.
Check it out.
Here's your chance to own a piece of history from the 2020 WWE Draft. On the second night, October the 12th, The Fiend, Bray Wyatt, and Alexa Bliss unleashed hell on Andrade and Zelina Vega. This limited edition 11x14 collector's poster is number 26 of only 50 made, personally signed by both The Fiend and Alexa Bliss, direct from friends at WWE. Comes with certificate of authenticity hologram on the poster itself, suitable for framing. You'll also receive a bonus autographed mystery photo and an on-air shout-out as our thanks to you. Get this ultra-rare autographed Fiend and Alexa Bliss poster now. Wrestling fans, especially here in the Boston area, we want to thank our great friends at Red Rose for their support for all of our charitable endeavors and programming efforts. Red Rose is 2 years young and extremely thankful for all the support they've had from our neighbors here in Melrose and beyond for an amazing first 2 years. Red Rose thanks Melrose and all of the first responders who have fought the good fight and have never given up hope during these unprecedented times. We did it together. Follow Red Rose on Facebook for their anniversary special, facebook.com/Red Rose Melrose. You'll be glad you did. Open until 2 a.m. Red Rose will give you fresh, piping hot, mouth-watering food that'll put an ear-to-ear smile on even the toughest critic's face. Check out their full menu online at redrosema.com or give them a call, 781-620-1889.
Wrestling fans, so many greats we've lost recently. I don't even think we could fit it into one program, but we already had kind of a WCW theme with our buddy, the late, great Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff. And man, I didn't get to know that well, but one you certainly did, where he was around the NWA/WCW scene pretty much his entire career. Beautiful Bobby Eaton.
Oh, Bobby he was the Ray Stevens of his era.
Really? Wow, that's a hell of a compliment.
Yeah, because, it's funny how people forget, especially in our business. In other businesses, they immortalize them, like Will Chamberlain, and even the ball players immortalized them, like Shaquille said he could never have stopped them, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And Bobby was working at 15. He was drawing money at 17. And everything he did was fluid. But I heard something on Cornette's podcast that was so true. Back when I first met Bobby, he would come off that top rope and drop that leg.
Yeah, Alabama Jam. Yeah.
The only picture I've ever seen where it was Bobby coming off the top, it was Scott, like he's 8 feet in the air from the post, right? Was a very famous picture of Ray Stevens back in the day doing that to Bruno. Bruno went out and defended the belt, WWF belt, because that's how much he thought about Ray Stevens, and lodged to Stevens on a count-up.
Wow.
But there was a picture of Ray giving his version of that, the bombs away. And Bobby was I could sit and watch a Bobby Eaton, Brad Armstrong match. It would be like Picasso and Rembrandt going at it. It was so smooth. It was so good.
And no matter who you paired with.
No.
It didn't make a difference.
No.
And I think that says it all right there. And nothing against Dennis Condrey, nothing against Stan Lane, nothing against even Coco Ware back when he teamed with him back early in his career. No matter who you put Bobby Eaton with, it turned into a hell of a tag team. Even later on, they did that in WCW when you were there. What were they called? The Blue Bloods, when he was with Steven Regal.
He did that fabulously too. And Regal did it fabulously. They went to Orlando, and there was, they had the English scenes, and they were great together. The only one that never worked on was the Jet Set. Do you know who that was? George Goulas and
they teamed together at one point?
Yeah, they were called the Jet Set, and George, who couldn't find his ass with 2 hands, he would come in the ring and say, "Daddy says so. Daddy says so." It was so bad. But Bobby was a tremendous performer. And the nicest guy in the world. And for my amateur psychology analysis, he was one of the most obsessive compulsive guys you'd ever want to meet.
So why is that?
He would come into the dressing room. Mm-hmm. Now, he lived in Charlotte, right? But they would give him a ticket to fly to Atlanta and then fly back, the next day, right? From Atlanta to Charlotte. Well, him and Arn would drive because it's only like, $1.50?
Yeah.
So they would drive. Bobby would come with 3 bags. Everyone had a shaving kit in it. There was a towel in it. Everyone had a pair of boots, socks, candy, gum, tape. You could ask Bobby for a hubcap, he would have found you one. And when he stayed over on the road, he would do that, and he would go take all the clothes out. He put them in. I don't think I've ever done this in my life at a hotel. Use the bureau drawers.
Never.
He would stack his stuff in the bureau drawers, and the 3 shaving kits were laid out in the bathroom with the different shaving lotions and colognes, the razor blades, right? Not razor blades, but the razors themselves laid out. And I mean, Bobby, he was the nicest guy in the world. I've never, ever heard anybody not Bobby Eaton, not one person. And he was really, really funny. And, you know, Bobby didn't work out much. You know, he trained in the ring, and he'd do a little push-ups and go to the gym a little something. But if he was sort of claustrophobic, which is strange for a wrestler, right?
Oh, really?
If you get near him in the dressing room, he's, no, okay, let me go. And if you cut him off, he would grab you, and it was like a bear had grabbed you. He had this natural tendon and muscle strength. It was unbelievable.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you think, obviously personality wasn't part of his game in the professional wrestling ranks, do you think maybe in a way he was overshadowed a little bit where Cornette was one of the premier?
Yeah, first of all, Bobby had a very, very unique Southern accent. Because he kind of mumbled like this, you know. And he wasn't on interviews excitable. Then you have Jimmy Cornette, who's going to have a coronary, you know, in 2 seconds. It was the perfect match. And I don't think neither of them would have gone as far as they did without each other.
Really?
It was Jimmy could have maybe in the office end could have done it, but having Bobby as the anchor to the Midnight Express was what made that team. You know what I mean? Like you said, no disrespect to Stan Lane. He was in the Fabs and drew a lot of money with Steve Kerr. But Bobby, as a worker, was the Ray Stevens of his era.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a compliment.
Yeah.
I've never heard that comparison before. What a compliment.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, as someone that was around both, do you think he was better in either team, the Condrey or the Lane version?
A lot of people like the Condrey version. I'd like the Stan Lane version. Because Condrey and Lane were 2 different characters. Stan Lane was the pretty boy and kind of elevated Bobby, where Dennis was like the tough guy, you know, version. And it was good, but I thought that Stan being the pretty boy and working the, knew how to do the videos. They were, you know, Fabs were one of the first few to do those shop dress band video. Remember that?
Yeah.
I think that gave Bobby something. And you mentioned another one, Regal and Bobby. That was some really great vignettes, you know what I mean? And they could wrestle. Not just work, they could wrestle and have great matches. And different matches. And Bobby, you know, he was that high flyer when he was younger and still could fly. As he got older, You know, he was a hell of a guy.
Yeah, I think he was one of those casualties of the Monday Night Wars where when everything was personality, he had great work rate, you know. And you were an executive with WCW. Maybe it was on Cornette show that I came across it, but at one point, did Goldberg say he thought maybe it would be interesting to end his streak to Bobby Eaton? I couldn't imagine that being a realistic train of thought to anyone other than Goldberg, but
I think that.
Was he that well respected by someone like Goldberg?
You know, I beat Bill the first night I ever had one Nitro. And so what was a huge mistake I made. And I kept him off for 2 months and then I started the run. Now, like I said, Bobby didn't have an enemy. And I thought Goldberg saw that all this shit and the politics in the back going on, and there's Bobby Eaton sitting in the corner saying, "Hey, you want a gumdrop?" I mean, and then him going out and watching Bobby do what he did, and the guy saying, "Oh wow, this guy deserves something." And I could see him, Bill, blurting that out, but realistically, it couldn't have happened. You know, right?
No.
But that, even if it's not true, it had to have a start somewhere. And I could see Bill saying, if anybody should beat my streak, you know, Bobby Eaton should. That's what I think. But Bobby, you know, you said about Cornette, and the other one was about Cornette was a great mouthpiece for Bobby's weakness, the only weakness he had.
Right, the only weakness.
Brad Armstrong was the funniest guy ever in the history of the wrestling.
I've heard that, yeah.
But he couldn't get it over on the
platform.
TV. If he could have shown one half of his stuff, he would have been over like you know, he would have made millions. The only thing, and I've always thought, what held Brad back besides not being a good promo guy, he wrestled so damn smooth, it looked like he was work. You know what I mean? He almost looked like he was working. He never made a mistake. And him and Bobby Eaton had some incredible matches and incredible tag teams. Brad made everything look effortlessly. And the bad thing about that, and I saw a book, somebody had it out and it was quoted it by me, and it was right, and I was definitely wrong. When someone came in the territory, we had to get them over. We thought we were going to get them over. We had told them we were going to bring them in and give them a push. The first thing we'd say was, put him with Brad, he'll get over that way. Well, I look back at it, maybe if we had Dusty was there, the Rick was there, maybe we should have stuck Brad with one of them and had them teach Brad to talk, you know what I mean? Maybe we just were so under the gun to produce 2 to 3 hours of TV every week. We didn't have time to say, okay, we got a diamond in the rough here. All we need to do is send it to a jeweler 6 months and get it done. And that's unfortunately what happens to some guys that could work.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes you're so good.
Yeah.
People that you get pigeonholed in, they can make everybody else look good at the expense of that person. Yeah. Well, you know, Kevin, I hate to say it, we're running out of time on this episode. I had some other great folks I wanted to mention. Maybe if you could throw out a thought, maybe 30 seconds to a minute of a couple of them, because I'm big on the remembrances. A guy you probably worked with very, very early on in your career when you were a much different looking Kevin Sullivan than most diehard fans would remember you as, back in the WWF days. a man that was supposed to be honored at the Cauliflower Alley Club this year, Dominic DeNucci.
What a wonderful human being. You'll appreciate this, okay? The first time I saw Dominic DeNucci, I was probably 12 years old. That's when, before Vince had Boston. That's when Bowser had died.
Paul Bowser, okay.
Paul Bowser had died.
Okay.
And Tony Santos stepped in.
That's right.
And Tony didn't have live TV.
Mm-hmm.
And Frank Scarpa was the U.S. champion. And Dominic came down for a couple of weeks as Dominic Bravo.
Really?
Dino,
with Dino? Okay.
Yeah, but he wasn't with Dino.
Oh, he wasn't with Dino.
He was Dominic Bravo. And he came down and got over, and he wrestled Scarpa in a babyface match. And they sold the building out and actually turned people away.
Wow.
And the reason why I know they turned people away, my dad would get free tickets because he was a Boston cop.
Oh, okay.
And he went to the windowsill. The guy said, "There's no more tickets, Johnny, but come on in. I'll find you a seat somewhere." And the place was sold out.
Really?
That's the first time. Dominic was a huge star in Australia.
Yes. What a run he had there.
Huge star in San Francisco. And then, when Bruno owned the Pittsburgh territory, he was a big star there, big star in New York, big star in Toronto with that huge
Italian population in Toronto, yeah.
Yeah, Montreal, the same thing, huge Italian population in Montreal. He was a big star everywhere he went, and he was one of the nicest human beings I ever met. And he looked like a wrestler. He had that height and the wide shoulders, and he wasn't jacked up, sturdy body, but he was a raw bone big guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a great guy.
Same thing, 30 seconds to a minute, a guy you had a chance to work a little bit with in-ring, I think, in the mid-90s, Patriot Del Wilkes.
Boy, that I couldn't believe it when I heard he died. He died way too young.
Yeah, just under 60.
I wrestled him a few times when he was working for the Crockett's.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next thing is he's up in New York, maybe the third babyface, right after he got there before the Warrior. There was Hogan, and then I'm going to say there was Duggan.
Right? Oh, no, he came in 97.
Oh, he came in 97?
Yeah. And they gave him a pretty big push right off the bat.
Right.
But I just think that gimmick wasn't meant for 1997 when they were trying to push edge and attitude. And you have a guy that maybe would have been on fire in 1982 in that company, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So you're absolutely right. I didn't realize it was that late.
Yeah.
Because he must have went someplace from the Crockett's. Did he go to Japan?
He was big, huge in all Japan.
Yeah, so that's what he did. He left them and went to Japan. And you're right. Timing is everything. And that time was when they really had a little bit more adult show.
Yes.
To say the least.
To say the very least. To say the very least.
So it almost like a Saturday Night Live skit inside the wrestling show.
At the right time. Think of the money they could have made off of those masks.
Yeah.
Like Rey Mysterio, my God.
Yeah.
Just wrong place, maybe right place, wrong time is the best way to put it.
Yeah.
And sad, he talked about his life problems where he was arrested for forging prescription pain pill prescriptions at the pharmacy and whatnot. And very forthcoming, trying to get people to learn from his mistakes. He was saying he was taking 40 to 50 a day, which, my God, that explains the tragedy in and of itself. But I think that says a lot about him as a person, for him to come out and admit it to people, you know what I mean? This was my problem. Let me talk to you about it. You can learn from it. and hopefully you don't wind up in my position.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't realize, I guess I was out of the loop then. I didn't realize he went away for the length of time he did.
Yeah, he did some time.
Yeah, I mean, he did. I thought it was like, you know, drop in, get your hand slapped, and you're getting bailed out. You know, I was thinking it was 6 months, but it was a couple of 3 years, I think. And if you lined him up when I first met him, that would be the furthest thing you'd think was going to happen.
I didn't know him well, but in my interaction with him, I thought he was a very nice man.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And last but not least, before we go, folks, again, this one might be tough for 30 seconds to a minute. The assassin Jody Hamilton we just lost.
Jody Hamilton was...
Maybe he should have got his own episode, but...
Jody Hamilton was, excluding Dick Byers as the Destroyer and probably Mil Mascaras, Jody was at the top of the heap of big men, masked men, and especially big masked men, right? Jody could work as well as Dick Byers.
Wow.
Jody, I saw one of the greatest matches of all times. I was at Columbus, Georgia TV. They had TV back then. They had their own territory within a territory Fred Ward owned.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, and Fred had Columbus TV, and he had Macon TV. And the crazy thing was, he didn't use the guys that were on top in Atlanta. He used the guys that were middle of the card on his, like Bob Armstrong was his top guy, and Bill Drummer was his top guy. But Jody was the top guy on both ends of the territory. But he had a match with Dickie Steinborn. That was an incredible match. They did spots I had never seen before. And they were wrestling spots, and Jody could taunt for a masked man because, you know, not seeing the face. And that's what made Dick Byers so well, too. Jody and him were the only two masked men that you could maybe not see it, but they gave you that intensity that actually bypassed the mask, where usually a mask on a guy, when he talks, you know, you can listen to it, you know.
And interesting enough, funny, look at who in his last big run who he wound up managing, who we started the show off with. He managed Paul Romer and Paul Orndorff for a period of time.
Right.
So again, the circle, how it all comes back
Yeah.
at the end of the day. But fans, we are running out of time now, and we don't want to be confused with our friend Din Fan in the back of the room who just showed up. But we had a heck of a time here on the premiere episode of Wrestling Insider Special Edition with Kevin Sullivan. If you are watching live on Wednesday night after AEW Dynamite, share some thoughts with us in the premiere chat. The super chat button is always open to help us keep the lights on and bring you more great superstars. Give us a thumbs up. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's absolutely free. It lets the millions of fans that may have vanished after the 80s know we exist. It may let the millions of fans that vanished after the Attitude Era know we exist. They may not love sports entertainment in 2021, but they may very well love talk shows like this. For my friend Kevin Sullivan, who is going to be one of the great ambassadors of our annual pallbearer Holiday Headlocks Toy Drive this year, I am still Dan Marati, unfortunately. We will see you soon. You and yours be well, be healthy. Good night from Las Vegas.
Thank you for joining us. Please give the video a big thumbs up, leave us a comment, and subscribe to the channel to enjoy more great content. Don't forget, you can help keep wrestling legends working. Check out our eBay store and join the Boston Wrestling family at patreon.com/Boston Wrestling so we can produce more in-depth shoot interviews.